Coming up on tonight's Faith versus Culture, pro-life activist Abby Johnson weighs in on the abortion pill debate and her new book on the sanctity of life. Coming right up.
To have sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
There are problems of sin and habit that cannot be solved outside the person of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Welcome to Faith versus Culture. I'm Billy Hallowell, and I'm excited to be joined by Abby Johnson today. Abby, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so we've got a lot to talk about. You have a new book coming out, Life to the Full. But I want to actually start with a statistic that I just saw, really interesting. On average, abortion is down about 5,300. There are 5,300 fewer abortions per month on average after Roe was overturned in America. What do you make of those numbers?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where you're kind of like, are we optimistic right now? I'm not sure that really accounts for, those are recorded abortions. So, that doesn't account for mail-in medication abortion. We hope that's what's really happening. We hope that abortion is going down, of course. We think that it is. We think that babies are being saved. We think that lives are being saved. Is that the real number? We don't really know. We think that overturning Roe has certainly done something to the culture in favor of life. Anytime, I mean, the law is a teacher, right? So when you change laws, it does change a lot of people's minds. There were a lot of people that would come into our facility when I worked at Planned Parenthood, and they would say, well, it's legal, so it must be okay. So I mean, certainly you hope that the law does lend some sort of moral compass to people who are maybe struggling with the morality of abortion. But yeah, I mean, that's always the hope, that abortions continue to go down. But ultimately, I mean, you've got to change minds. You have to change hearts, and that's what we're trying to do in the movement.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if we went throughout history with all the things that were legal and we acted as though those were moral things just because it's legal, it's more right. I mean, we've seen how that can go wrong in the past. And I have to ask you, I mean, you just mentioned everybody who knows your story, they know you were a clinic director at Planned Parenthood. You've had an incredible transformation in your life. And you help so many people now. But for so long, the pro-life community wanted Roe to be overturned for 5 decades, right? People prayed for it. They took to the streets for it. They did advocacy work for it. How confident were you beforehand that you would actually see the day where Roe was overturned?
I was always pretty confident. Well, I should say, when I first left Planned Parenthood, I was not very confident, because that was kind of drilled into me when I was at Planned Parenthood, that was, no matter what happened, no matter what strides the pro-life movement made, Roe was never, ever going to be overturned. That was solid, law. That was never going to happen. But really, the first time that I really believed, no, we are going to see the overturning of Roe, was really in 2011. And that was the first legislative session that I participated in as a pro-life person. And I watched how engaged pro-life legislators were. And I had a large part in getting the ultrasound bill passed in the state of Texas. And the legislators were asking me, they were saying, Abby, what can we do to shut down abortion facilities? And I said, you need to pass an ultrasound bill. If you pass an ultrasound bill, for many different reasons, which I explained to them, that's going to shut down about half of abortion facilities in Texas. And they said, okay, let's do it. And they did it. And what do you know? About half of the abortion facilities in Texas closed down. They came back to me and they said, Abby, tell us more, right? Like what bills can we pass if you could give us 5 bills that would, shut down the bulk of abortion facilities in Texas, what would it be? And so I gave them a list of my 5, and they said, okay, we're going to get them passed. And they did. The next session, they got all 5 of them passed. That really gave me a lot of hope, right? That we had legislators in positions of power that really wanted to get this done. But coming fresh out of Planned Parenthood was so sure. They were so confident that Roe was never going to be overturned. The first year that I left, I did believe that it was not going to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because, then getting involved in the work and seeing all that strategy, but you've also seen the secular left, the pro-choice side, they've really tried to adapt to this, and they've come up with all sorts of workarounds, and this all too well.
Mm-hmm.
The ships in the harbor, there's so many ideas they've had on how they want to still provide and push abortion. And when you look at this, there's also some people on the pro-life side who it seems might think, oh, well, we've won, the battle is over. And so I want to talk a little bit about just some of the positives and negatives. And let's start with the positives, obviously, with Roe being overturned, with the Dobbs decision. What are some of the positives? And then we'll kind of pivot into maybe some of the concerns you might have about how we're handling this in the pro-life side.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're seeing the pro-life movement step up. We're taking care of, the needs of women. Pro-life pregnancy centers are stepping up, unlike they ever have before, providing case management, providing for the needs of women in crisis, for the needs of women who are in these unplanned pregnancies. Pregnancy centers are actually opening up just at a record pace. I think pregnancy centers now outnumber abortion facilities 4-1 in the United States, which is incredible, right? Even our ministry, Loveline, we actually now have pro-choice people. So people who support abortion, right? They actually are donors to our ministry, Loveline. And, we've kind of asked them, like, why would you support we're obviously very pro-life. We're very, forward facing pro-life, right? Against abortion. And we're like, why would you support an organization like ours? We obviously don't support abortion. And they tell us, they're very upfront. They say, well, because there's nothing like this in the pro-choice movement. The pro-choice movement, they're out here screaming that they want abortion access, but there's a lot of women out here who have children that need support, and they're not doing anything to support these women. They say they're a women's rights, movement, but they're not doing anything to help women who already have children and who do choose life for their children. And so we want to support the organization that is, and that's why they're supporting Loveline, which is incredible.
Can you talk a little bit about Loveline, just
yeah.
so people know, because it's one of your amazing ministries, what you do exactly, because that's incredible to me that pro-choice people are coming alongside the work that you're doing. So just get into a little bit of the work so people understand that.
Yeah, so we are a comprehensive case management support program. So women come to us who maybe they're pregnant, maybe they've just had a baby, or maybe they're a single mom of older children, and maybe they're facing eviction. Maybe they chose life several years ago, but now they're in a position where they really need some assistance. They really need some support. And so we have licensed counselors on staff that are able to help them, kind of get to the root of that problem. How did you get into this vulnerable position in the first place? How can we prevent you from getting into that vulnerable position again? It's really comprehensive. It's a really beautiful program. And in the first 3 years of getting this program up and running, we've been at it for 3.5 years now. The first 3 years, we were able to provide comprehensive case management to 4,200 women.
Wow.
And that represented over 8,000 children. And it's just really beautiful to see, it's not just, diapers and wipes and onesies. I mean, this is really transforming lives. This is not a transactional program where you come in and you watch a video and we give you stuff, right? It's not transactional. This is really transformational. And we've just seen so much amazing fruit come from what God is doing in this program.
No, that's incredible. Thank you for going through that. And that's amazing that it also attracts people on the other side of the issue. That says a lot about what you guys are doing there at Loveline. But to get back into sort of some of the concerns you might have, because I know you've talked, one thing I love about you is you always kind of get into the nitty gritty, the pieces of the puzzle that people might not be thinking about. Where are some issues you think that maybe the pro-life community needs to pay special attention to, after Roe?
Well, I think we need to be careful what we're calling a victory. I think that the pro-life movement, if I'm just perfectly honest, I think the pro-life movement has become so used to losing that we are willing to celebrate a loss and call it a victory. I think that we're so accustomed to losing that we're willing to celebrate mediocrity. And we are not a movement of mediocrity. We are a movement that is centered around Jesus Christ. We are a movement that should only be willing to celebrate victory, because we are a victorious movement. And so I worry about that. I worry that we are going to become a movement that is trying to tell people the best way to kill their baby. I saw this, a couple years ago when there were groups that were trying to ban dismemberment abortion. Okay. They were essentially saying, don't kill your baby through dismemberment. It's fine to kill them another way in the second trimester. Just don't do them this way. And I thought, is that really who we are as a pro-life movement? Are we really now telling people the right way to kill their baby? It's okay to do it. Just don't do it the way that we don't want you to do it. Do it the way that we want you to do it. And I thought, no, that's a loss. That's a loss. That's mediocrity. That's not who we are as a pro-life people. So I do worry about that. I'm particularly worried about this case. And I think that a lot of pro-lifers don't understand the nuance of abortion. I think they gravely misunderstand the abortion industry. They don't understand the spiritual battle that we're fighting. They don't understand what's actually happening inside of the abortion industry. And they do not understand the carnal desire that the abortion industry has to kill our children. They think it's all about money. It's not about money, Billy. They are killing children because they want to destroy the image of God. And that tells you alone, this is a spiritual battle we're fighting. It's not about money. The pro-life movement has mistakenly believed that abortion is about money. And they've said it for so long, I think they believe it, but it's not about money. It's about something so much deeper than that.
Well, I love what you said there about the spiritual battle. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side of the break with more of Faith versus Culture. Welcome back to Faith versus Culture on the CBN News Channel. Abby, I want to pick up where we were on the abortion pill there, because one of the things that I think is so complicated is people are trying to figure out, well, how do we handle this? Because now more than half of abortions, some stats say, are coming through this chemical abortion, these two pills that women are taking. How should the pro-life movement handle that issue?
So I think first and foremost, we need to be really honest about what chemical abortion is. We need to be honest about stating the facts surrounding chemical abortion. We need to not be scared to show what chemical abortion is and what it does to women. So, I experienced chemical abortion firsthand. I know what it does to your body. I know what it does to women. I know how it traumatizes women. We have been very, we showed what My Chemical Abortion looked like in the film Unplanned. We have been very generous with showing the clip of Unplanned, that scene in Unplanned, everywhere we can. We want people to show that clip. We want people to share it. We want people to share that on their social media platforms. We want people to understand the dangers and the risks and the trauma associated with medication abortion. So, I would encourage people to find that clip. If you search Unplanned movie medication abortion, it should pop up. Share that clip. Do not be afraid to share the truth of abortion, because at the end of the day, lives are being destroyed, and not just the baby's life, but women's lives. And we are losing the physical lives of women. There was already a 19-year-old girl that just recently died because of this medication abortion, mail-in medication abortion regimen that's taking place. And there will be more deaths. And so we have to do everything that we can to protect women.
And changing hearts. This goes back to that, right? This
Yeah.
is a battle about changing hearts, changing minds, and it is a spiritual battle, which is part of this that I think, as you so aptly said in the last segment, is too often overlooked. I wanted to ask you, I want to get into the book here in a moment, but you also recently had a campaign on Good Friday to encourage people working in the abortion industry to come out of the industry, as you and so many others have. Tell us a little bit about that. What were the results of that?
Yeah, so we're actually, I'd love to give you a total, but we're actually still receiving phone calls. We just received a phone call yesterday from a clinic worker who actually did walk out of their job because of the Exodus campaign on Friday, but just got the courage to call us yesterday to let us know and to reach out and ask for assistance. So we have actually, interestingly enough, we had workers from two different clinics in two completely different parts of the country that there were multiple workers from both of these clinics that left in one
Wow.
day. So that's really exciting. We had a lot of workers leave on the 7th. It was a very good day, perfect day, Good Friday, to remember about what Christ did for us and his sacrifice, and to walk away from such an evil organization, to remember that that Christ is the one who will care for us, and that his sacrifice is enough. And so it was a very powerful day. We got lots of phone calls. We sent in a postcard. Every month we send in a postcard to every abortion facility across the country, telling them about our ministry. And we sent in a postcard to every abortion facility, and it has every one of them has a unique QR code on it, so we know how many times it's scanned. Each postcard is scanned, and talking about the Exodus 2023 campaign, and that particular QR code was scanned almost 300 times.
Wow.
So almost 300 times, individual workers were scanning. They were reading our resignation letter that we had typed up for them, that they could literally copy and paste. They were, hopefully reading something on that exodus2023.com website that was prompting them, giving them hope, and maybe giving them some doubt. Am I doing the right thing? Is this actually where I want to continue to work? Or could I imagine myself walking out of this place today or tomorrow? And so we're still receiving phone calls. We're really excited about what has already happened and what will continue to happen because of it. So we'll be giving an update soon.
That's incredible. That is incredible. And, you have no shortage of projects, which is another thing I love about you. There's always so much to talk about. We run out of time every time, but the next project you have is a book coming out, Life to the Full. And this is a really unique book, really telling powerful stories. Tell us a little bit about the project.
Yeah, so I was asked by a friend of mine, Tyler Rowley, if I would help him sort of compile some really just awesome and unique stories from pro-lifers that we know. Some of them we actually didn't know that well, but we reached out to them and said, we think you have an awesome story. Would you be willing to contribute to this book? So we had them just compile. We compiled these stories, and Tyler was really, really awesome. He actually contacted a user on Twitter who had shared their story, and he reached out and said, look, we'll keep it anonymous, but are you willing to share this really incredible story that you shared on Twitter? And they agreed. And we've got stories from former abortion doctors that people probably don't know, have never heard of before. We've got stories of people that were given, adverse diagnoses in the womb. One was given an adverse diagnosis, encouraged to abort. Her baby was perfectly healthy. One was given an adverse diagnosis, was encouraged to abort, and their baby did have that diagnosis. But that child is the light of their life, right? And, and so there's a couple stories like that in there. Story of a woman named Rebecca Hagan. She's a pretty popular pro-life speaker. She took the RU46 chemical abortion pill, and at the last minute said, you know what, this was wrong. I shouldn't have done it. She took the abortion pill reversal. her child is alive today and healthy. So many great stories in this book that really just teaches us that no matter the circumstance, no matter the situation, life is always the right and beautiful choice.
Life is always the right and beautiful choice. That is a great way to close that segment. We will be right back with more of Faith versus Culture on the CBN News Channel in just a moment. Welcome back to Faith versus Culture on the CBN News Channel. Abby, the book sounds phenomenal. It's called Life to the Full. I want to ask you, because as we're sort of coming to a close here, you know, there are a lot of people out there who are hurting, and you also do a lot of counseling and working with women who are post-abortive and who are struggling with that because culture tells them not to struggle with it, that they shouldn't be, you know, lamenting their past decision. But what would your message be to maybe a woman watching right now or a man watching right now who they've had an abortion and they're silently struggling with that? What would you say to them?
You know, I would say, I would say the same. I would say that God doesn't want you to struggle with that either, right? I would say that God wants you to be free of any past guilt, any past shame. But we can't truly be free of it unless we repent of it, unless we confess that sin. And he wants to take that burden away from us. A lot of times people say, "Oh, Abby, don't you feel so guilty about what you've done? I've, had 2 abortions. I've facilitated over 22,000. How do you live with that?" And I say, I don't have to live with it. Because I've given it to God and he's removed it from me. I don't have to live with regret. I don't have to live with guilt and shame. He's absolutely taken it from me. And that's what he wants to do for everyone. He wants to free us from that bondage. It's Satan that wants us to live in our past. It's Satan that wants us to lament about the things that we've done in our past. God wants to remove that from us. And he wants us to find that freedom desperately.
Well, Abby, the book again is Life to the Full. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks so much, Billy.
Everyone else will be right back in just a moment with more of Faith versus Culture. That's all the time we have for today's Faith versus Culture. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you again next time on the CBN News Channel.